Hi everyone, it's Kim. Welcome to the Fleece and Harmony Knitting and Crochet podcast. This is episode 87, and if you're looking at it on the day that it was released, it is January 7th, 2022. So we will have a regular podcast today. We missed 1-2 week period and we're back, but we're back on track right now. So if you're looking at this the day that it's released, it's actually January 7th, 2022. And I have to say, I'm pretty happy that 2021 is over. Not that I like to wish my life away, but 2021 was pretty brutal. 2022 is not starting great as far as the pandemic goes, but I'm hoping that we're going to have a better year overall than we had in 2021 as far as things happening, personal things, and just the general state of affairs that we've survived in 2021. In this episode, we're going to have all the regular features. Just remind everybody that we actually create chapters for all the different sections. So if there's parts of the podcast that you particularly want to see or parts that you want to skip over, you can find the chapters with their descriptions in the show notes down below in the description box on YouTube. Or if you're watching this from, I think on a tablet and a desktop computer in any case, you can put your mouse down along the bottom and you'll be able to see the chapters there. So as usual, we'll start with the farm update. There's lots of works in progress this time, and we have some FOs, a couple other special little segments. I have a shop update with 2 new yarns, actually. One, a new selection of colors in Iona Bunny, and a new color in Selkirk Worsted as well, which we'll show. And we're going to talk about a couple other things in the shop update. And there'll just be a little tiny Fibre Festival update at the end, and then the Harmony part. So we'll start with the farm update as usual. And even though I don't know how long it's been, 3 or 4 weeks now that have passed since we've last seen each other, not much has really happened. Everybody is just munching away in the barn like they should be as far as the sheep go. We're obviously feeding hay now every day because there is absolutely no grass left. Although they were still eating grass into December. We had even a couple days in December that almost reached 10 degrees Celsius. I think it got up just over 9 degrees, which is pretty crazy for December in PEI. But today, it's a beautiful wintry day. It's a colder, below freezing, and we had a beautiful light snowfall, so everything looks clean and fresh and sparkly. And winter does mean that the chores get a little bit more, there's a little bit more to do, because obviously we're feeding all of the animals, the horses, the rabbits, and the sheep hay, so they're not eating grass like they were all during the summer and the fall. But also, hoses don't work in the winter because they'll freeze. So we're actually hauling water to the horses in particular. So we're doing that every second day. They have a big water tank that we fill that's heated outside, and then we are bringing water to them every day or every second day because it lasts them 2 days. So there's quite a lot to do in the mornings. And one thing that did happen, which was a little bit of a shock, it's never happened before, is that we were going around doing our chores as usual one day last week. And when we give the horses water, we take the trailer with these 2 giant buckets, like barrels, I guess they would be plastic barrels, on the wagon, and we back that into the barn where the sheep are. And we use we have a frost-free hydrant in the barn, so we have running water there all winter. And we fill those buckets while they're on the wagon. We pull out, I close the door, I close the gate behind Ken, he goes over to the horse field, and then we pour the water into their big stock tank. So we did that like we always do. And after we did it one time last week, I came out in the morning to start the chores again, and I realized that I didn't close the gate that is next to the barn where the sheep pasture is. So literally from well, for 24 hours, the gate was wide open because I forgot to close it behind the trailer when Ken went with the water. And there was a light dusting of snow that night, so we could see where the sheep slept. They slept outside, and we could actually see where they slept. And I don't think they were more than 6 feet away from the open gate. I was horrified. I couldn't believe it when I went out and looked, and I could see round spots in the snow where their little bodies were overnight, and they didn't come out because there was no footprints anywhere outside of the gate. So, because they usually move as a group, the whole flock. So they might have gone out and wandered around a little bit and then all came back in for the night. But I don't think that was the case because I didn't see any hoof prints in the snow outside of the gate. But man, I couldn't believe it because it was wide open for 24 hours. So luckily we have really, really good hay this year, and it seems they're all getting really fat. So I guess they weren't motivated to go explore any further than where they were. And I'm usually the one reminding everybody else to close the gate, but it was totally me. It was my responsibility absolutely to close that gate, and I completely forgot. But feeling pretty lucky that the sheep didn't all have a night out on the town and wreak havoc around the farm. I couldn't even imagine. Anyway, so now we are overcompensating, obviously, and reminding each other, don't forget about the gate, don't forget about the gate, about 15 times every morning. But clearly that might be needed. I don't know. So we had a good and like a peaceful Christmas break. It was just Ken and I here, so it was very quiet. But we kind of got in this little habit of we would get up and do the chores. So we weren't doing them as early in the morning as we normally do, but we would get up and do the chores, and then we would go for a walk. So we have a trail in our woodlot, which is about 1.5 or a little bit longer, 2 kilometers long. So that would be just like over a mile or so around, for those that aren't on the metric system. So we used to walk on there fairly often. So we started doing that. But then while we were walking one morning, we discovered that there were these posts in the field next to our field. So our neighbor farmer has a field, and the posts were markers that they use for snowmobile trails and for ATV trails. It's a big thing here that people get out in the winter and they're on the trails with ATVs and snowmobiles. And there's quite a long network of trails on Prince Edward Island. I think you can almost go tip to tip. And they always get permission. It's a well-organized association, so they get permission from farmers to go across their fields and things like that in the winter. So as long as there's nothing planted there, then and they have the permission, then farmers are willing to let people go across the field. So our neighbor has obviously let them do that. And there's I think it's a provincially owned woodlot in behind our property, and we saw that there was a trail cut in that woodlot. So we went for a long walk. I think it was probably well over 2 kilometers that we walked, and it went all the way over to the next road. That it's a rural area, so the next road to us is quite far away. So went through the woods. It was beautiful. And they had it, it's not groomed because I don't know, they probably like it if the terrain's a little rough. But we went for a huge big walk there on a bright sunny day there was a little bit of snow around and everything. So that was really good to be able to do that over the time. We were closed we closed at noon on Christmas Eve, and then we didn't open again until January 3rd. So we had a nice little break. Time to relax and kind of regroup and get ready for the new year. So that was really good, and we were thankful that we had that little bit of a rest, because we've really been going out straight really since the beginning of the summer, and it was really nice to have a little bit of have a break. And we had bought all of our favorite foods at the grocery store to prepare, and every night we had some kind of special thing that we love. So we have a lot of favorites, I guess, so because we were eating very well over the holidays. So it was a good, peaceful Christmas, and I hope you all had a lovely holiday as well if you were off. And for those that aren't, I hope that that's things that you will get some time to rest and relax at some point during this season. So I will go on now and talk about the whips. There's no rips, so there's just works in progress. And I am happy to report that Paisley is out of hibernation. So I'm going to show that first. I'm not going to show tungsten this time because I put that in hibernation for a while. And but I was motivated to do some more work on Paisley. So I know I've been reading everybody's notes that they send, and some people I think are wondering if Paisley is ever going to be done. And when it was in hibernation, they were wondering if I was going to pick it up again. But I definitely am going to finish it, and I'm actually have a new splurt of motivation to get it done. So here's the Paisley sweater cardigan by Kidsilk, and here we go. And so you've seen this, if you're regular viewers, you've seen it 100 times, maybe more. But when I last showed it, I had just cut the steeks, and so the neck edge was the raw edge, and the steeks had been cut and just left with the loose threads that were there. So I picked it up the other day and I started doing the button bands. So I have to admit that I've never done a button band before. And I think that part of the reason why it ended up being hibernated was after the excitement of doing the steek, which was something else I had never done before. I really wasn't too sure about how the button band would work. The pattern is well written, but you know, many of the Norwegian designers assume that you know some of the basics when you're knitting their designs because they've all been knitting since they were in school, like grade school. So the first instruction on the button band was pick up stitches around the neck was the first part where you picked up stitches. It doesn't tell you how many stitches to pick up. And for sure, we're all more comfortable with patterns that really spoon feed us everything. How many stitches do you want to pick up? That kind of thing. So this is a little bit more kind of off the cuff, but I decided to dive in. I was in the right frame of mind to do it. So I picked up as many stitches as I want, or what I felt was what was appropriate. And I've completed the first part of the neck edge and the button band. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of detail about that. So Kidsilk in her patterns designs it so that you have the public side that shows, which is the knitting, and then you have a facing. So that's exactly what's happening on the bottom as well. So the facing hasn't been sewn down yet, and I've showed this before. So you have this little piece of stockinette, and you have a ridge that she has you do. So you purl on the right side, so you have a ridge. You fold this facing up, and then you tack it down inside the sweater. On the bottom of the sweater, it's one of the last things that you do. But on the button band, you do the same thing. You pick up the stitches all along the edges, so it's all the way up the right side, around the neck, and on the left side as well. And when you pick up the stitches, there's quite an easy pattern. It's a purl row, then a couple rows of stockinette, then another purl row to create a folding edge, and then you do a facing, exactly the same as how you do on the bottom of the sweater. So I did that. You sew the facing over where your steeked edges were. So inside this band, it's quite thick because all of the small flap that you have left over from where you steeked is inside there. So it's kind of like when other designers talk about a steek sandwich, you do make a sandwich. It's not knitted like some of them are, but it's a knitted facing and then sewn down. So I'm just going to show you how that looks inside. I think you can see it pretty well. I'm going to just get really close. And that's just basically like a whip stitch, and it's holding down the facing, and it's securing the edges where the steeked edges was. So now the next step of this is that I'm going to start picking up inside the loop, so the purl bump that's on the back of the stitches here on the button band. I'm going to use quite a small crochet hook. I think it's 2.75 millimeters, and you start picking up stitches to do crochet, single crochets. So the button band will have another couple of rows of crochet. The button holes are incorporated in that part of the button band, and then after that's done, there's like a decorative edging that goes at the very end of the whole thing. So you have about, I would say not quite half an inch of button band there now. And with the crochet, you're probably going to come up with probably another quarter to a half inch. So your button bands are quite wide. And because of the amount of chocolate that I ate over Christmas, I hope they're wide enough, because I might be in trouble, because this sweater fit me absolutely perfectly in the fall, but I'm not so sure it would fit absolutely perfectly right now. So I might even do some extra room on my button bands. I don't know. But anyway, that's it. But it's amazing how beautifully that finishes the jacket. So the inside just it's really the pattern is really well done, and the workmanship that you complete all of these steps. It's a lot of steps, but I think in the end it's going to be worth it. So that's the Paisley, and now that I've got that part done, which I wasn't really too sure about, I feel a lot more motivated to keep going with that and get it done. So a Fleece and Harmony episode lately would not be complete without me showing somebody else's works in progress as well. So of course, Jennifer Hicks has been knitting, because she knits all the time. And this is actually a finished object, but it led to a work in progress. So I'm going to show this first. So this really cute little beanie is the Mountain Mist pattern by Tin Can Knits. And Jennifer made this beanie using Tidal. So the variegated on the top is our Tidal in Selkirk Worsted. Then Seafoam is the next line that you see, the next part of the pattern. Then she put in Linden Blossom, which is quite a bright green, and it really, there's a little tiny bit of splashes of Linden Blossom in the Tidal as well. But next to the Pine Forest, which is the dark green, it just gives that little bit of pop to the color. So Jennifer loved this so much when she knit the hat. She decided that she should do a yoked sweater using those same colors. So she's generously left her her Mountain Mist sweater with her yoke. So it's not been blocked yet. So you're going to see it's not laying 100% flat, but I've seen Jennifer's color work before, so it's not too tight along the yoke. But this is just a beautiful sweater. She's really knitted it quickly, because I think she's really enjoying knitting it. So you have the same colors. So it's Tidal on the top of the yoke. And then you have Seafoam is that blue-green band, the Linden Blossom, and then the Pine Forest. And this is just fantastic. I really like that of course, I love those really deep yokes that are really popular right now. But if those are knit top down, then you all know, we talked about this with my hinterland, is that if the yoke comes down over the sleeve, and then you separate for the sleeves after you've done the yoke, then the part that's right under your arm is usually a little bit lower than how I personally usually like it. But in this case, because the yoke is fairly narrow, it's not coming down all the way down onto the sleeve. You have a little bit more flexibility about where you want to break off for the sleeves or separate for the sleeves, and you can avoid that little bit of for me, they always create a little bit of a bat wing under my arm, and sometimes it's not very noticeable. In my hinterland, it's not super noticeable, but I still prefer to have an underarm that comes right up under, so you can have the flexibility with this. So again, this is the Mountain Mist pattern by Tin Can Knits, and this is just going to be gorgeous. And I can tell you, it just feels like our yarn always feels, is very squishy and soft. So this will be a beautiful addition to Jennifer's sweater wardrobe, because she's got lots and lots of sweaters. So that she's hand knit. So this is beautiful. So another whip that's not mine. I'm not going to show Elda today, which is also being knit by Jennifer Hicks, because she hasn't completed it yet. So she still she parked the Elda a little bit to work on this Mountain Mist sweater, but she is finishing it as well. She told me today that she felt that the cast off around the neck that she wanted to, or the bind off around the neck, she felt might be just a little bit too tight. So she's actually going to take that out and do it with a super stretchy bind off. So she's going to do that because she feels that she's just going to have a little bit more ease of use with that. So so that's about it for the whips and rips. I have another work in progress, but I'm going to show it later because it goes with a finished object that's also, they go together. So we're going to move to finished objects, and I had a Rowan a Rowan trunk show arrive. The timing was a little bit, it arrived right before Christmas, and then we decided to close all through the Christmas period. So I barely got it out of the box. However, I wanted to show some of the things that were in the trunk show, because there's some really great samples there. So the first thing, so I brought one of it as a finished object, and I'm wearing one of the samples. So the first one I wanted to show, I did an Instagram post with this sweater this morning, and this is made from the Tweed Haze. So this is a new yarn by Rowan, and the sweater is called Whisk, and it's a pattern by Lisa Richardson. So it's found in the Rowan Tweed Haze book, which you can buy on the website, which uses all of this new yarn. It's a bulky yarn. So, for example, there's tags on here. I think this sweater, it's a larger size, and it uses 8 balls. So just to give you an idea, but it is as light as a feather. And I don't think I have seen anything quite so cozy. It's really, really nice. And you have this beautiful tweedy effect with the Tweed Haze, which is kind of a hybrid yarn that is made from some of the same elements as felted tweed and Kidsilk Haze already combined together, but it does give a fluffy, bulky feeling, but with a lot of lightness. There's a lot of air in that. So this is just making my hands warm just holding it. It's really a beautiful, beautiful sweater. And there's a few different colors, so you could change the colors if these oranges and goldy yellow greens are not your thing. There's a couple other really nice colors in this yarn. So I thought that this sweater was just stunning, so I wanted to show that. And the sweater that I'm wearing, the cardigan that I'm wearing, is also part of that trunk show. This is Zircon, and it is a pattern by Martin Story. It's in Rowan magazine number 70. So of course it has detail on it that has the DMC metallic thread. This is made from alpaca soft DK. It's charcoal, the charcoal color, and they use the gold DMC metallic thread just in the details where the cables are. It feels so nice. Alpaca soft DK is just one of those yarns that is just, it's so soft and smooth and beautiful. It's really, really a lovely yarn. I'm going to stand up. I think you can see the detail pretty well, because with the DMC, the cables really kind of pop on here. You can see the color, but I'm going to stand up and turn around because there's a wide vent at the bottom. The cable work on the bottom almost makes a little kind of like a peplum, except it's not gathered, but I'm just going to stand up and hopefully you can see how it looks. It's longer in the back than it is in the front. And you have these great vents that come right up, and you can see how that just that little bit of metallic thread inside just makes it gorgeous. Just going to turn it around a little bit. Anyway, I really, and it just feels like a hug, like everything that's knit with alpaca soft DK. It has that, it has, it's hard to describe. It has a denseness to it, so you can feel that it's like the fabric is nice and sturdy, but yet it has a light and soft handle. It's really a gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. So if you haven't knit a project with alpaca soft DK before, you should. There's a lot of different ones. The Carousel book by Martin Story uses alpaca soft DK. That's a really good book. And then there's lots of patterns on the Rowan website as well that use it. So you should take a look at it if you haven't tried it before. And then this little cardigan is just beautiful with the small buttons, and it's besides the tungsten, this is one of the designs that I like the best with the metallic in it, because it just is the right amount of metallic to set off the pattern and create a little bit of interest with this. So that's what I'm wearing. So Zircon by Martin Story, available in magazine 70 of the Rowan magazine. And like all of the patterns that are from the magazine, you can't buy it separately. You have to buy the magazine to get the patterns that are in that book. And I have one more finished object, again courtesy of Jennifer Hicks. So Jennifer wanted just a kind of a shrug wrap that she wanted to knit. And she chose the pattern called the Foggy Morning Wrap by Cocoa Knits. So I'm just going to show you how this works. So this is the actual garment is like this. So you have this little bit in the back, so it's like a shrug sort of, and then the front is just these two flaps that come down. So it just sits perfectly on your shoulders, and then you have these two pieces that you can wrap around the front of you if you want. I would throw it on, but I can't. It's going to just stick to the sweater. But I can tell you that the side part drops off your shoulder and comes to about here, and then you have these panels in the front. This is knit in. I have Jennifer's notes here somewhere. I just want to make sure that it's Erin, I believe. Yeah, it's Erin. It's the signature Erin. The color is Blanky, so that's this icy blue that we have. It's called Blanky, and it's knit with the Erin yarn. It uses 600 yards. And so that's four skeins. The skeins are 150 yards each, and it's knit on 6mm needles. So it goes really quickly, and you need one in every color. It's a Cocoa Knits pattern. It's on their website. Again, it's called Foggy Morning Wrap, and it just is really as everything that's knit with our yarn, because of the crimp in the wool that we get from our farmers and from our own flock, has a lot of crimp in it, so it makes a really cozy, comfortable wrap. So we have that, and I'm just going to remind everybody that we also still have the Cocoa Knits workbook. The Foggy Morning Wrap is not in the workbook because this is the Cocoa Knits method. And if you haven't looked at this book before, you can check it out. It is a method to do garments, so it's about sweaters. And I did the Emma sweater in last year. I did knit the Emma sweater, so it actually might be almost 2 years ago now. Most of these patterns, they follow the Cocoa Knits method, which is a worksheet that you use to figure out where your increases and everything go. And basically, once you've done it once, you apply the same method to a number of sweaters. So if you've been thinking about this book, she spends a lot of time talking about fit and fit with body type and that kind of thing as well. So it's a pretty valuable reference book, and we always carry that in stock. We have this, and we also there's a tiny journal that has worksheets in it that you can buy separately as well, and it has all the worksheets, and then you can keep a track of the different projects that you make with that. So I just wanted to mention that we have that book. So I think that's it for finished objects. So as far as garment goes. And in the last episode of the podcast, I said that I didn't know, I was going to try to find a small project to do because I needed to, my knitting mojo was lagging a little bit, and I wanted a small project to do that I could actually feel accomplished because I was going to actually finish something. And I was hoping that doing a project like that was going to help me motivate to get back to do my Paisley and to work on my tungsten and so forth. So the project that I found to do was another amigurumi project, this time not in crochet. It's a knitted project. And I found little cotton rabbits. So that is a blog and a website, and the patterns are designed by a lady named Julie Williams, and she's from the UK, and she's designed patterns for these gorgeous little rabbits. I'm in love. I've named her Penelope. You might have seen it on my Instagram post, but I wanted to talk about Penelope because I feel like Penelope saved my sanity over the last couple months. So Penelope is knit from felted tweed and Kidsilk Haze held double. So Julie recommends that yarn for the bodies of some. She does a lot of patterns with other animals as well, but the bunnies they just broke my heart. They're so cute. So that's one of the yarns that she recommends, but she also has a wide variety of yarns that she recommends for her patterns. But I like this because, of course, I love the fact that there's a little bit of bit of fluff. So Penelope is knit with Boulder and Steel is the color. So the felted tweed, I have it right here. The felted tweed color is Boulder. And I've used the Kidsilk Haze in Steel to go with it. And you can see it doesn't really change the color. Penelope is stuck with, it doesn't really change the color too much. It just softens the Boulder just a little bit, but you get this nice fuzzy gray. And in the last newsletter, I had made a couple of other suggestions for other colors that you could use if you wanted to use felted tweed and Kidsilk Haze. So the beauty of these dolls, I guess we'll call them dolls, is that there's no buttons or anything. So the eyes and the mouth is just made with embroidery floss and French knots, which I also learned to do. I could never get a French knot to work and to stay in place before, but with Julie's help, I was able to have success. I also used a French knot for the legs, and you knit the body. I don't really want to take her dress completely off, but we'll just lift it up a little bit so you can see. You knit the body down part way, and then you knit their little knickers and tights right on to that. And Julie is very detailed with the pattern and the details. So of course Penelope has her little tail, her little cotton tail as well. And in this case, the shoes are knitted right on the legs, but there are patterns for loose shoes as well that can be removed. And the dress does come off. It just takes a little button in the back, which I have the button to put on, but I haven't sewn the button on yet. And there's all kinds of little patterns for different types of clothes. So Julie actually recommends a cotton yarn for the clothes because of the way she said she likes the way that it feels. So I'm using Summerlite DK. So Penelope's dress is made from fuchsia and pear in the Summerlite DK. And of course that's her tights as well. And then I used scraps of Sailor Blue for her shoes, which were coming from my Cornwallis that I knit. So that sweater, the striped nautical sweater that I made quite a long time ago, and made Penelope. She's stuffed with wool from our farm as well. So we do have stuffing that's on sale online. You can order it. And I will let you know, it does have little flecks of hay in it and so forth, but for this, it's perfect. It works perfectly well. And so this is Penelope, and she sits on her own. It'll be below the camera so you can't see it, but I can tell you that, well, actually she sits right on your hand. So she sits on her own, and which I love because I like to have little animals on my shelf, so I don't know if you can still see that if I put her there or not, so she can sit there. So I had so much fun doing Penelope, and it did exactly what I wanted it to do for me, that project. It really motivated me to keep going. So now I've started her little brother, Pierre. So he's got his head done. This is where you attach. And he is going to have a jean overalls for his clothes. And this is what the body looks like before you stuff it and attach it. And these are his little boxer shorts. And that's done also from leftovers from my Cornwallis. So Summerlite DK in the white and the sailor blue are the little flecks. So it looks a bit funny when you put them together like this, but it works. When you stuff them, this narrow part becomes a little bit more elongated, and their head goes on there. And then after you do the body, you actually do the legs. So in this case, for Pierre, I am making a version of the legs that has a sock attached. So this is not really to give you all the details of how to make it, but just to show you kind of how you put things together. So this is the foot is knit out of rouge, which is the red from Summerlite DK, also from my Cornwallis sweater. I've Kitchener stitched the top seam. All of the bunnies are knit flat, but you could knit the dress in the round as well. So, but mostly everything is knit flat, and then his leg is going to be the same color as the rest of his fur. And then once I have this leg finished, it's flat, so I'm going to sew it up, and there's a needle there because you knit a little cuff on the sock as well. Once I have the legs done and stuffed, then he's going to have runners. So there's a little she also has a pattern for sneakers or runners or trainers, whatever you want to call them. So he's going to have his sneakers, and he's going to have little blue jean coveralls, which I'm going to knit from more of the scraps of my sailor blue from my Cornwallis project that I did. So he's cuffed socks, jean over coveralls, and I'm also going to knit him a little sweater, striped sweater, which will be red and white as well. So I can hardly wait for Pierre to join his sister Penelope, and these are a bit addictive. So when they're talking about falling into the rabbit hole, this is what they're talking about. This is the rabbit hole, literally. They are so cute, and it's really, really satisfying because even though they're done in pieces, so when you finish the head, you feel like you finished something, even though it's not the whole little creature. And there's all kinds of different animals that Julie has a pattern. So I really invite you to go check out her website. She has a lovely blog, and the pattern is really, really well written. So the pattern for Penelope is, I think it's 19 pages. So she doesn't leave anything to chance. It's very, very clear. She even tells you how to orientate your knitting, like when you're picking up your stitches and everything. So it's really, really easy to follow, very detailed and very well written. And in the end, you have this beautifully cute little friend to sit on your shelf next to you, watching over you. So you can check that out, and I have all the information down in the show notes as well for there with links. I also created a collection on the website called Little Rabbits, I think that's what I called it. And any of the items that I used to do my bunnies are in that collection. So if you click on that link down in the show notes, then you'll be able to see everything. But of course, there's lots of colors of Summerlite DK. There's tons more colors that I'm showing there in Felted Tweed and in Kidsilk Haze. So you can kind of let your imagination go wild if you visit those different sections on our website individually. But just as a quick, if you want to just see quickly what are the different things that I've used, that will be in a special collection link called I think I called it Little Rabbits, but I can't. Anyway, you'll find it. You'll be able to find it, and there's a link in the show notes. So I think we'll move on to the shop update, and we have come up with a couple new colors. So keeping with kind of our little theme that we've been doing of coming up with a variegated color and then showing you the other colors in our selection that you could use with it. We've talked about this a few times before, is that I'm really a fan of color work done with a variegated color and then a solid color for the rest of the sweater, a la my hinterland and any numerous number of patterns that you want to look at on Ravelry or on the web. So we came up with another combination, and this one, again, this is all on Selkirk Worsted. So the variegated color is going to be called Cranberry Scones, and cranberries grow here on Prince Edward Island, and we have several cranberry farms here. I was looking at a few statistics because, of course, I have to be able to relate the name of the yarn to things that we find here on PEI. So we have quite a small cranberry industry. Most of the fields are pretty small. They're anywhere between 5 acres and 30 acres. But because they're small and spread out, apparently they're not considered organic, but because they're spread out and they're maintained in smaller production areas, it's sustainable, and they use a lot less of the inputs that some of the massive production farms may have to use. But cranberries also grow wild here too. So in the boggy areas, you can find wild cranberries. And I came up with the idea for this color. Originally, I was looking at, I was driving, and I was looking at the dogwood branches in a field that were, up against the brown hay that had been left in the field and grown up. So I thought it was kind of like a dogwood and hay color. But when we actually made the yarn and dyed it up, it reminded us of cranberry scones. So in fact, we thought, why not name it for a food, because that's even better. So we have cranberry scone. And I'm just going to show that close up so you can see. It's really lovely. And the components of this are cranberry. So this was a red that we made from the red gradient. So I'm just going to drop a couple of these. So you can see that if you wanted to harmonize, you could definitely use cranberry and cranberry scone for the variegated part. It also has some of the plover in it as a base as well. So it does match with plover too. And then we picked out a couple colors that are not directly in the variegated, but work really well with these tones. And the brown is chestnut. And see how that works. I might just show them individually with this would also make a great combination. And the other one is pumpkin patch, because there's little hits of orange in the cranberry scone as well. So those colors. So if I put these all together, you can kind of see if you've got colorwork sweaters that you're thinking of. Can kind of see how that would all work. So again, you have chestnut, which is an existing shade, pumpkin patch with this kind of nice rusty orange, plover, a kind of a golden brown, and cranberry. And then all of that together kind of mixed in with cranberry scone as well. So that's a really nice combination. And while I was doing my research on cranberries, I was making myself hungry. So I know that cranberries grow wild in Newfoundland as well, and we still are carrying the Treasury of Newfoundland dishes. And I looked up in here, and I thought for sure they must have a recipe for cranberry scones. But in fact, they didn't. They have a recipe for scones that has raisins and dried fruit in it. So if you wanted to make cranberry scones, you could use dried cranberries in that recipe that's in here. But they do have, as I suspected, there's quite a few recipes with cranberries in them. So there's a cranberry muffin, and there's a cranberry bread, and there's a couple other things, a cranberry sauce as well in here. And it was interesting because cranberries have really a lot of vitamin C, and so in the winter it's like kind of like the perfect fruit to add to your diet when you were a pioneer, and or back when things weren't easily accessible. So I wasn't surprised that there's recipes in here for cranberries. And this is just a great book. There is the most excellent gingerbread recipe in here. And when we did a saltwater mittens event, not a year ago in November, we started carrying this book because the best gingerbread recipe ever is in this book. I think it's called Great Grandmother's Gingerbread, and a rum sauce that goes with it. So if you're interested in kind of old-fashioned recipes, we carry this book in our store. You can order it online. So that's it. That's the full cranberry story. So now the next exciting thing for the shop update is actually we have a new batch of Iona Bunny. So we've been saving the bunny wool for quite a long time. So we've got quite a good sized batch of Angora blend. So our Iona Bunny is 15% Iona, so bunny, 15% Angora rabbit with 85% wool. And the colors that we decided to do, in the past we've always done the Iona Bunny in kind of soft pastel colors, but we decided that we wanted to do something different this time. So we did jewel tones, and we're really excited about this. So Iona Bunny is a 2-ply yarn, 250 yards it's on 60 grams, so it's quite fine. And the colors that we've done are blueberry preserves, so this nice kind of muted purpley color. And we did fox and kits, so a darker kind of rusty orange brown. We're featuring as well fir green. So you think that it looks a little bit like pine forest, but it's not as yellow as pine forest in the green, like I showed in the mountain mist sweater. I don't know, the sweater is at the bottom of the pile there, but it's more of a deeper emerald green. And we have raspberry cordial to go with that as well. And the final color that we're doing is slate for a more neutral. So these are the colors. And that's going to be Iona Bunny. And we'll do that. The link for the Iona Bunny will be down in the show notes. So you'll be able to, we won't be featuring the link publicly on the website. You have to go through the show notes or on the newsletter to be able to purchase these, so that they're reserved for our viewers and newsletter subscribers. Okay, so that's really good. We haven't had Iona Bunny for a while, and like I said, we've always done it in more pastel colors, so we thought we would do something a little bit different this time. And I think that's it for the shop update. It kind of got mixed up. We did shop update and projects all kind of together. So I'll just speak about the Fibre Festival. So people are asking, is it still going on? So far, yes, we're still planning it. I think I've talked about this before. People have asked me, do you really think that you'll be able to have it? And I think it's not because I think that all of this craziness is going to be over by the time that the Fibre Festival comes around, but I think it's pretty clear that we're going to have to get used to living with it, and life will go on. So we're still confident that we're going to be able to have the Fibre Festival. I told you on the last podcast that we were looking for workshop instructors if somebody wanted to apply to be considered to do a workshop, and for vendors. So the PEI Fibre Festival has a website that you can go and get all the information. The latest news is there. The organizers were on holidays for a couple weeks, so they're just back to work today. I think is the first day back. So there's new things being added to the website all the time. Or if you want up-to-date information, you can sign up for the newsletter as well. And right now they're working on securing blocks of rooms in the hotels that are close to the venue, to the convention center where the Fibre Festival is going to be held. So you can check on the website. I don't think there's any information. You can't book anything yet because they're just organizing it. But just so you know, they will be organizing blocks of rooms for Fibre Festival attendees. And if you want to keep in touch with what's happening there, you can apply to their newsletter. So I think that's it for me today. So I have no idea what the Harmony moment is going to be. So I will choose something. I have a few different things that I can choose from. And you can stay tuned for that. Before I say goodbye, I would just like to remind you that if you are watching the podcast regularly and you like it, if you would subscribe, that would be great, because with the more subscribers that I have, it helps the channel grow. And thumbs up if you like the podcast. I always read your comments and answer them. So if you leave comments in the, you can leave comments on the YouTube channel as well, and I will read them all and reply to all of them. And I really want to thank you for joining me. And I hope that you have a very peaceful week or 2 weeks filled with joy and hope and laughter. So have a great 2 weeks, everyone, and stay tuned for the Harmony part. Bye.